They said her ranch was cursed, too much death in the dirt, too much woman for any man to stick around. Mae Callahan buried her husband beneath the cottonwood tree and watched her world turn to dust. Then he came, bleeding, silent, eyes full of storms, a man running from more than just the law. He called himself Eli, but there was something buried deep in him, something dangerous. They didn't trust each other. Hell, they barely spoke. But the land knew, the fire knew. And when the truth rose from the ground, it would break what little they had left. The wind carried grit sharp enough to cut, rolling in low off the plains as thunder growled in the distance. Mae Callahan stood at the edge of her porch, shotgun loose in her hands, eyes narrowed on the silhouettes staggering down the trail. He wasn't riding, he was walking, limping more like, and dragging something behind him. A horse? No, just his shadow. Blood soaked through his shirt at the ribs, dark and slick. But he didn't call out, didn't slow. Just kept coming, boots crunching gravel like every step was a dare. Mae's thumb hovered over the hammer. "You lost?" she called out, voice hard from too many years alone. He stopped about 20 feet from the steps, one hand braced on his knee, the other hanging limp. "I need water." His voice was rough, like boots on sandpaper, southern drawl, worn thin, dangerous. She didn't lower the shotgun. "You always bleed on women's porches, or just mine." That almost got a smile out of him, almost. He wobbled, then collapsed, face first into the dust. Mae muttered a curse and stepped off the porch, knees aching as she knelt beside him. The man was burning up, fever, slick and trembling. She rolled him gently and for the first time got a look at his face. Blood crusted his stubble. His eyes fluttered, barely open, and locked with hers. Green, wolf, haunted. Then he passed out cold. She got him into the house, stripped his shirt. The bullet had gone clean through, thank the Lord. She boiled water and cleaned the wound, hands steady even as her mind spun. Who the hell was he? The man was muscle and sinew and scars, a story written in old wounds. She caught herself staring too long at the cut of his jaw, the way his chest rose and fell, the trail of hair down his stomach. She turned away, cheeks flushed. Mae Callahan hadn't touched a man in 4 years, hadn't wanted to in 3, not since Daniel died, and certainly not since the townsfolk began whispering things like too wide for the saddle and poor Daniel dying young. But something about this one, this stranger bleeding on her bed, set her nerves on fire. Not lust, not exactly. It was something more primal, something that felt like a warning. Night came heavy. Rain slapped the windows. Mae sat in the kitchen watching the doorway like a hawk. The shotgun lay across her lap, but her eyes kept drifting to the stairs, to him. What kind of man walks half dead into a stranger's life and makes her heart beat like that again? She didn't even know his name. Upstairs, Eli came to in a stranger's bed, guts stitched with pain, breath shallow. He remembered the porch, the eyes, the curve of her jaw, and the way she looked at him, not with fear, not even pity. Something else, something he didn't deserve, but needed. God help him, he needed it bad. The morning after, the storm broke in pale gold across a sky still heavy with clouds. Mae's boots sank into the damp earth as she trudged toward the north fence line, dragging a coil of wire in one hand and a hammer in the other. Her back ached, her fingers were stiff. Still, no one else was coming to fix this place but her. The pasture stretched wide and empty, save for a handful of tired-looking cattle and a stubborn mule that refused to die or be useful. She used to have hands to help. Her husband, Daniel. Then a drifter or two never stayed longer than they had to. Now it was just her and that stranger in the upstairs room. She drove a new post into the soil, sweat beading along her neck, despite the cool wind. Her shirt clung to her back. She hated how the fabric always pulled tight across her belly when she bent over. Hated the way folks looked at her when she came to town, like she'd let herself go, like grief and loneliness were a choice she made. They'd called her a pretty girl once, back before the miscarriages, before the weight, before the ranch started falling apart. Now they just called her the widow, like she didn't have a name. A crunch of gravel made her spin. Eli stood a few feet behind her, looking worse than death and just as quiet. His shirt was half buttoned, stained dark where the blood hadn't dried. He held his ribs like the air itself, hurt, but he was standing. "You got no business being on your feet," Mae snapped, suddenly aware of how filthy and sweat-soaked she looked. He shrugged. "Felt wrong, lying in your bed while you worked your land." She hesitated. He was rough around the edges, sure, but something about the way he said "your land," it hit different, like he respected it, respected her. "You gonna stand there bleeding or help me patch this fence?" Eli gave a faint, lopsided grin. "You always this warm to folks who show up half dead?" "Only if they don't die before breakfast." They worked in silence, the wind pulling at Mae's hair as they moved post to post. Eli wasn't much help with his wound, but he offered her the wire, held the hammer when her hands cramped, steadied the fence as she nailed it down. Little things. Things she hadn't shared with anyone in years. At one point, she stumbled in the mud, cursing under her breath. Eli caught her elbow, firm, unflinching, and for a second too long, their eyes locked. Mud on her cheek, sweat on his brow. Something passed between them, unspoken and hot enough to burn. But then he let go too quick, and that made her stomach twist worse than if he'd held on. Later that night, Mae watched him from the kitchen doorway as he sat on the porch, shirt open, staring at the stars like they owed him answers. She didn't know his story, didn't know why her body ached with need when she looked at him, but she knew this. No one ever looked at her the way he did, and that scared her more than anything else. By the third day, Mae could no longer pretend he was just a ghost passing through. He'd moved out of her bed and into the barn's loft, saying he didn't want to impose, though she noticed he limped worse each time he climbed that rickety ladder. He worked when he shouldn't have, saying little, eyes scanning the horizon like he expected something to come riding out of it. She didn't ask much, but he gave her his name, Eli Mercer, said it quiet like it still belonged to another life. His voice was like river gravel, smooth but edged. Mae stood in the garden, yanking at weeds, her dress clinging to her back with sweat. She heard his boots on the dirt behind her and didn't turn. "You were a lawman," she said, not a question. He stopped. Silence stretched too long. "Used to be," he finally said. "And now I fix broken gates and owe you a debt." She pulled a weed so hard it snapped at the root. "I don't need your charity, Eli." "I know. That's what makes you dangerous." She turned, arms folded, not bothering to hide the dirt under her nails or the flush in her cheeks. He looked at her like she was something carved from stone, weathered but still standing. He didn't flinch from the size of her, didn't pity her. That alone twisted something deep inside her chest. "Why'd you stop being a lawman?" Eli's jaw tensed, his fingers flexed. "'Cause being good got good men killed." That night the nightmares came. Mae woke to the sound of him yelling, not loud but guttural, like an animal caught in a trap. She rushed to the barn, lantern in hand. He was thrashing in the loft, shirt clinging to him, face twisted in pain. "No, damn it, not her." She climbed up without thinking, set the lantern down, and grabbed his shoulder. "Eli, wake up." He jolted upright, breath ragged, eyes wild. It took him a second to see her. Then his whole body sagged. "I'm sorry," he said, voice rough. "I didn't mean to scare you." "You didn't." She handed him a canteen. "You said not her." His eyes dropped. Dreams don't always make sense. "You were protecting someone." His silence answered for him. Mae stood there, lantern flickering between them. The hay smelled of dust and horses, and the air felt tight with something unspoken. "You should get some rest," he said finally. "So should you." She started down the ladder, but his voice stopped her halfway. Her name was Ruth. Mae turned. "She was my sister-in-law, my brother's wife." His eyes were far away. "She died because I was too slow, too proud. Thought I could fix things with a badge." Mae held his gaze, heart thudding. "You can't fix what you don't face, Eli." He nodded once, and then she left him with the ghosts. In her bed she couldn't sleep. Her thoughts were full of him, his scars, his pain, his presence, and the way he said her name, like it mattered, like she mattered. The sun crawled across the sky like it had somewhere better to be. The air was thick with silence, the kind that clung to your skin and made your thoughts feel loud. Mae was in the hen house gathering eggs, and when the mule brayed loud enough to rattle her teeth, she stepped outside, wiping sweat from her brow with the back of her sleeve. That's when she saw it. A rider, far off. Black coat, black hat, black horse, sitting still as stone atop the ridge that overlooked her land, watching. She didn't tell Eli. Not right away. He was in the barn, working the forge, sweat pouring down his neck as he hammered a bent hinge back into shape. She watched him from the doorway, shoulders flexing, jaw tight, like he was punishing the metal for something it did to him. He didn't look up when he said, "You ever feel like you're being watched?" Mae stiffened. "Why would you ask that?" "Just got a chill in my bones. Like something old remembered me." She almost told him then, almost. But something in her gut said, wait, said watch. That night, the wind howled like it was dragging chains across the prairie. Mae stood at the window staring at the ridge, empty now. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Eli sat by the fire, cleaning the shotgun she hadn't touched since he arrived. "You ever wonder what's left behind when a man runs?" he asked without looking up. Mae turned from the window. "You mean what he loses?" "No," he said, voice low. "I mean what follows." She said nothing, because the truth was, she knew about ghosts. She saw one every time she passed the cottonwood tree where Daniel was buried. And maybe Eli had one riding after him too. The next morning, a saddlebag hung from the gatepost. Mae found it while checking the cattle. No note, just a single weathered item inside. A badge, bent, burned. The name on the back etched with a knife. Mercer. She dropped it like it bit her. Eli didn't say a word when she handed it to him. Just stared at it for a long while, jaw tight, eyes stormy. "Looks like someone knows where you are," she said, voice flat. He nodded. "Not someone, him." Mae folded her arms. "You gonna tell me who he is?" Eli stood, his body suddenly coiled like a rattler. "You'll know soon enough. If he wanted me dead, I'd be dead. He's here for something else." Mae stepped closer, voice sharp. "What else would he want from me?" Eli looked at her then, really looked, and that's when she saw it. Fear. Real bone-deep fear. Not of dying, but of losing something or someone. The next day broke hard and dry, like the land itself was holding its breath. Mae was in the corral before dawn, trying to help her oldest cow birth a calf that refused to come out right. Sweat poured down her neck. Her arms were buried to the elbow, trying to turn the calf inside her. And the cow groaned like it was dying. Eli was supposed to rest, but he came anyway. He didn't say a word, just knelt beside her, boots in the mud, shirt clinging to his chest. He held the cow steady while Mae gritted her teeth and twisted the calf just enough. Slid free, wet and trembling. Mae sat back, panting, covered in blood and afterbirth. Eli handed her a rag, watching her like she was made of something rare. She wiped her face, spit into the dirt, and met his eyes. "You still think I need saving?" she asked. Eli didn't smile. "I think you're the strongest damn person I ever met." That stopped her right in her tracks. Later, after the calf was up and nursing, they stood by the fence, shoulders brushing, not speaking. A breeze carried dust and the smell of sagebrush. Her heart pounded louder than the wind. "Why'd you come here, Eli?" she asked softly. He didn't answer right away, just looked at the sky like the truth was written in it. "Because I thought I could outrun the past," he finally said. "But it ain't the kind of thing that tires easy." Mae studied his face. Scarred, rough, tired, but not cruel, not cold. "You can't fix what you won't face," she said, echoing her own words from nights ago. He turned to her then, real slow. His eyes burned, not with anger, but with heat. Desire. regret, something old and aching. Their faces were inches apart. She didn't flinch, didn't pull away. He leaned in, then stopped her right there, breath on her lips, and pulled back. Like it hurt. "I can't," he said hoarsely. "Not yet," and walked away. Mae didn't move for a long time. She stood in that field, fists clenched, heart pounding like hooves on hard pan. Part of her wanted to scream. The other part understood, because she wasn't ready either. Not to let someone in, not to be wanted, not again. That night she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, one hand resting on her stomach, the other tracing the spot on her collarbone where his breath had touched. She wanted him. Lord, she wanted him in ways that made her skin burn, but want wasn't enough. Not when ghosts still stood between them. Outside, Eli sat on the porch, the shotgun across his lap. He watched the shadows and wondered if they were watching back. He thought of Mae's hands, her eyes, her voice, and the truth he still hadn't told her. A truth that would break her, maybe him too, but it was coming, and it wasn't going to knock. The rain returned just after supper, soft at first, then pounding like hoofbeats on the tin roof. Mae sat in her room with the lamp low, sorting through an old cedar box she hadn't touched in over a year. It smelled like dust and dried lavender. Inside, scraps of her past. Daniel's wedding band, a yellowed telegram from the bank. And at the very bottom, folded so many times the paper felt like cloth, was the letter. The one she never sent. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. "Daniel, I don't know if I'm writing this for you or for me. Maybe both. The ranch is falling apart. So am I. I miss you. I hate you. I don't know which one more. You left me with nothing but silence, and God, it's loud. I thought I could be strong. I'm not. Not really. I pretend. But most days I want to crawl inside the earth and let it bury me too. Folks in town don't look at me anymore. They look through me. I put on weight. My laugh doesn't come easy. I don't know who I am without you." Mae stopped reading. Her eyes burned. She hadn't meant for Eli to see her like that, barefaced, undone, crying over ghosts. But when she turned, he was there. He stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, wet from the rain. His shirt clung to him, and his eyes found hers fast. "How long you been standing there?" she asked, voice cracking like dry wood. "Long enough," he said softly. He didn't move. She wiped her face, ashamed of the tears, the letter, the truth of it all. "You want to show Cowboy? This is what a broken woman looks like." He stepped inside, boots heavy on the floorboards. "I've seen broken," he said. "You ain't that. You're just bruised, like the rest of us." She held the letter up like it might burn. "I never sent it. What kind of wife writes a letter like this to her dead husband?" Eli came closer, close enough to smell the rain on his skin, the sweat, the dust. He knelt beside her chair and took the letter from her hand, careful, like it was sacred. "The honest kind," he said. She met his gaze. For once she didn't flinch, and for a moment, just a breath, they hovered there. Him, dripping rain, her, heart open and raw. His hand brushed hers. Their fingers tangled for half a second, but the moment passed. He stood and left the room without another word. Mae stared at the empty doorway long after he was gone, the warmth of his touch still burning in her skin. She didn't know what scared her more, that she was starting to feel something again, or that he might already know. The wind changed that morning. It came down off the ridge like something hunted, full of dust and warnings. Mae was fixing the latch on the chicken coop when she saw Eli ride out, alone, quiet, rifle slung across his back. He hadn't told her where he was going, just saddled up and left like the silence between them wasn't heavy enough to drown in. She stood there, hands on her hips, watching the dust trail vanish into the horizon. "You keep riding off like that," she muttered. "One day, you won't come back." She didn't realize she'd said it aloud. He returned just before dusk. His shirt was torn. Blood, not his, splattered across his sleeve. His eyes scanned the property like he expected something to come crawling out from under it. Mae didn't speak. Not until he walked right past her. "You want to tell me what the hell's going on?" He stopped, back to her. The wind picked up again, whistled through the eaves. He turned slow. "They're getting closer." "They?" He stepped forward, voice low. "The man on the ridge, his name's Calder. Bounty hunter, mean, precise, and he don't miss when he pulls the trigger." Mae crossed her arms, jaw set. "And what's he want with you?" "He ain't after me anymore." Eli looked her dead in the eye. "He's after you." She flinched like he'd slapped her. "Why?" she breathed. "Because I stopped him from killing someone once. A girl, a witness. He was working for men with deeper pockets than the law could reach. I cost him a bounty. And more than that, I embarrassed him." He stepped closer. "He's been hunting me ever since, and now he knows I've stopped running." Mae's voice was ice. "And you led him here? I didn't know he'd come this far. I thought I was done with him." "Well, you were wrong," she snapped. He nodded. "I usually am." She turned to go, but his hand caught her wrist. Not rough. Just enough to make her stop. "Mae." His voice cracked on her name. She looked at him, really looked, and saw it. Not just fear, regret, the kind that sits in a man's chest and rusts him from the inside out. Her pulse kicked. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist. "I didn't mean for this." "I know," she whispered. Their faces were close now, the space between them smaller than breath. "I'll protect you," he said, "even if it kills me." "Don't say that. I need you to know." A flash of lightning lit the yard behind them. Thunder cracked a second later, and just for that moment, Mae let herself lean into his chest. Just a second. Just enough. Then she pulled back. "The barn needs boarding up before the storm hits," she said, voice tight. He nodded. "I'll take the west side." She turned away, but her heart didn't. It stayed with him. The storm rolled through in the night, hard and fast. By morning the air was cold and strange, like something had changed, but no one dared speak it. Eli sat alone on the edge of the corral, staring at the knife in his hands. It wasn't for protection. It wasn't even for show. It was memory. The handle was worn smooth. The initials etched into the brass hilt had faded with time. LM, his brother's blade. The one they'd buried with him. Only Eli had dug it back up. He wasn't thinking about Mae when he walked toward the cottonwood tree. He wasn't thinking about Calder either. He was thinking about the boy who saw too much. The boy Eli let go. The boy who came back with a colt and a heart full of vengeance. The boy who became Calder. Eli knelt at the base of the cottonwood. The wind whispered through the leaves like a voice he couldn't quiet. "I was supposed to protect you," he murmured. "I wore the badge. I had the law behind me. And still—" He trailed off. Truth caught in his throat like broken glass. "I didn't pull the trigger when I should have. And you paid the price." He stabbed the knife into the dirt and left it there, buried to the hilt. Mae watched him from the porch. She couldn't hear the words. Didn't need to. Some things a person wore on their back like a saddle that never came off. She'd seen guilt before, on her own face in the mirror. But Eli's guilt, it was deeper. It bled out of him like sap from a split tree. And still, she didn't look away. That night, over a supper neither of them touched, Mae asked softly, "You ever kill a man?" Eli didn't answer, didn't blink, didn't breathe. She leaned forward, eyes locked to his. "Don't lie to me, Eli." His voice was flat. "Yes." "Did he deserve it?" "Yes." "Would you do it again?" He looked at her then, eyes dark and clear. "If it meant keeping you safe, yes." Mae didn't reply, just stood and walked outside, her dress catching in the wind like smoke. He followed. She stopped near the barn, moonlight catching her profile, softening the hard lines her life had carved. "You scare me, Eli," she whispered. He stepped closer. "I scare myself." She turned, suddenly inches from him. "Why me?" she asked, voice breaking. Why this place? Why now? Eli's hand reached for her face, rough thumb brushing her jaw. Because this is the only place I've ever wanted to stay. And then he kissed her, not soft, not sweet, like a man drowning and choosing her mouth to breathe from. She kissed him back, but just as quick she pulled away, gasping. No, she said, not yet. He nodded, but in his eyes something shattered, not from rejection, from hope. The morning came heavy with smoke. Mae smelled it before she saw it, faint like burned oats and ash carried on the wind. Then she saw the tracks, deep, fresh. Wagon wheels and horseshoes leading away from the north pasture, and a trail of blood across the dirt. 3 of her cattle were gone. 1 was dead, throat slit, hide marked with a crude brand she didn't recognize. A symbol burned into the flesh like a warning. Mae dropped to her knees beside the carcass, her stomach twisting with rage. She didn't cry, not this time. She stood, wiped her hands on her skirt, and stormed back to the house. Eli was inside cleaning his revolver. He stood when he saw her face. What happened? You tell me, she snapped. My cattle are gone. 1's dead, branded like some sick message. He moved past her, fast, grabbing his rifle and loading it in a single practice motion. Show me. They walked the trail in silence, his jaw tight, hers tighter. At the sight, Eli crouched low beside the dead steer. Calder, he muttered. He wants you scared. Well, it's working, she bit out. You still think this place is worth staying? His eyes snapped up. I didn't stay for the land, Mae. She stepped back. Don't say it like that. Like you're doing me a favor by being here. He stood. I'm not. Then what the hell are you doing? He looked at her like she was fire and he'd forgotten how not to get burned. I'm trying, he said, to be better than I was. Well, try harder. The fight simmered between them all the way back to the house. Mae slammed the kitchen door and went straight for the bottle of whiskey Daniel used to keep behind the flour tin. She hadn't touched it since his funeral. She poured a glass. Her hand shook. Eli stood in the doorway, watching her. I didn't come here to ruin your life, he said quietly, but you did. I know. She took a long drink. It burned going down. Good. She wanted it to. Then she turned, her voice low and sharp. Tell me the truth, Eli. You came here for me, or for something under this land. His mouth opened, then shut. That was answer enough. Mae laughed, cold, bitter. You bastard. He reached for her, but she shoved him back hard. Get out of my house. He didn't fight it, didn't explain. He just left. She stood alone in the silence he left behind, breath ragged, fists clenched. Part of her wanted to run after him. The other part wanted to burn everything he touched. Because deep down, in the part she didn't say out loud, she'd started to believe in him. And now she didn't know if she'd ever forgive herself for it. Mae didn't sleep that night. She sat at the kitchen table, the bottle of whiskey half empty, Daniel's old ledger open in front of her. She'd meant to do figures, try to focus, but her eyes kept drifting to the stack of letters Eli had brought back from town days earlier. She hadn't touched them until now. One envelope was heavier than the others, thicker paper. No return address. Inside was a folded telegram. She read it once, then again, her breath caught. To Eli Mercer, land purchase near Brimstone Ridge. Buyer confirms interest pending quiet acquisition target. Callahan Ranch. Seller's widow unaware. Proceed carefully. Mae dropped it like it was poison. Her vision blurred, heart pounding in her ears. She gripped the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. He lied. Everything, every look, every promise, every whispered word in the dark was a lie. She didn't wait for morning. She stormed to the barn, threw the doors wide. Eli was half-dressed, laying in the hay, arms slung over his eyes like the world couldn't find him there, but she did. Wake up, you bastard. His eyes snapped open. He saw her, saw the telegram in her shaking hand, and his face went pale. Mae, you were going to sell my land. You were working with someone this whole time. No, it's not what you think. She hurled the paper at him. Don't you dare insult me with another lie. He stood slowly, arms raised like she might strike him, and she might have. I took that letter, he said, voice raw, but I never sent a damn thing back. I thought about it at first when I got here, but that was before I knew you, before I knew what this place really was. You mean before you knew how stupid I was for trusting you? No, he growled, stepping closer. Before I realized I'd rather die than see you lose one more damn thing. The barn was silent, except for their breathing. Mae shook her head, tears streaking down her face. You were the first man who looked at me like I was more than the dirt under my boots. And now I don't even know who you are. Eli's voice cracked. I'm the man who made a mistake, the man who didn't deserve you then. Still don't. Damn right you don't. She turned, started walking, then stopped. You want to stay here, Mercer? Fine. Sleep in the barn, fix a fence, muck a stall, but you stay the hell out of my heart. And then she was gone. Eli didn't move, didn't chase her. He stood alone in the hay and felt the weight of the badge, the blood, the lies, and now the loss. The woman he was falling for just found out the one truth that mattered. And it damn near broke both of them. He rode into town on a black gelding with silver tack, looking like he'd stepped out of a dime novel, hat tilted just enough to cast shadow over a face that was too clean, too calm, the kind of calm that made men uneasy. Mae saw him before he saw her. She was loading feed into the wagon out front of the general store, her arms sore and heart still raw from what Eli had done. The stranger dismounted slow, boots clicking against the boardwalk. He tipped his hat and gave her a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Ma'am, he said, smooth as honey. You Callahan? Who's asking? She shot back, wary. Name's Avery, Calder Avery. I knew your late husband in a fashion. That name, Calder. It cracked across her thoughts like a whip. He helped her load the last sack without asking, making light conversation about weather, livestock, the slow rot of small towns. Mae answered short, measured. Something about him felt wrong, too easy, too polished. And he watched her too close, like he wasn't just listening, he was sizing her up. They rode back toward the ranch side by side, though she kept her hand near the rifle tucked beneath the wagon seat. The road stretched long and dusted with gold from the dying sun. You live out here alone? He asked casually. I get by, he smiled. Hard place to run a ranch alone. Mae didn't blink. Not running. I'm fighting. Avery chuckled, slow and low. Didn't mean offense, just admire grit when I see it. Your husband, he spoke highly of you. Her heart squeezed. Daniel had died nearly 5 years ago, and if this man knew him, it was news to her. What'd he say? Avery shrugged. That you were too good for this world. That felt rehearsed, like it came from a line he'd used before. She gripped the reins tighter. They reached the ranch as dusk settled like ash. Avery took his time looking around, eyes trailing the fence lines, the barn, the broken windmill. You've got a good spread here. Shame about the trouble you've been having. Mae's voice sharpened. What trouble would that be? He met her gaze then, smile gone. Man named Mercer been around here? Her pulse skipped. Why? Let's just say I've got a long-standing debt to settle, and I've tracked him across 3 counties. Mae stepped down from the wagon, voice ice cold. Well, you won't find him here. Avery nodded slowly, jaw tight. I hope not, ma'am, for your sake. As he rode off to find lodging in town, Mae watched his back vanish into the twilight. She didn't go inside. She walked to the barn, fists clenched. Eli wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. Just like Daniel wasn't. Just like every damn man who promised her something and then disappeared. But Calder Avery wasn't like the rest. No, he wasn't offering anything. He was coming to take. And Mae Callahan had just begun to realize she wasn't about to let anyone do that again. Mae didn't sleep. She sat in the kitchen with her shotgun leaning against the table leg and the lantern burning low. The stranger's words echoed like hammer blows. Mercer been around here, and for your sake. Eli hadn't come back. Good. She didn't need another man with secrets, didn't need to care where he went or why it mattered. But when she heard boots on the porch after midnight, her hand went straight for the gun. The door creaked open. He stepped inside, eyes bloodshot, hat in hand. "I know I shouldn't be here," he said. "You're right," she replied, not looking up. "I came back to tell you the truth, all of it." Mae didn't answer, but she didn't throw him out either. Eli set the folded paper down on the table, old, worn, and stained. She hesitated, then opened it. It was a map of her land, but not for cattle, not for pasture. Underneath the northern slope, beneath the rocky stretch where nothing grew, was a mark for silver. 10 years ago, Eli began, my brother found a vein while working for the land survey. Quiet thing. He didn't tell anyone except me. Said he wanted to leave something behind for his wife and kid. But the company he worked for got wind of it. They wanted to buy the land quiet. Problem was, it was already in your husband's name. Mae's eyes widened. "Daniel?" Eli nodded. He said no. Said the ranch was your legacy. Said he'd rather go broke than sell you out. Her throat tightened. "I was the middleman," Eli said. "I tried to negotiate. Then Daniel died. A hunting accident, they said. But I don't believe it." Mae gripped the table. "You think they had him killed?" "I know they did." The air in the room went still. "And you still came here?" Mae asked. "You let me believe you were a drifter, a gun, a nothing. I had to make sure Calder wasn't after the land anymore. But he is. He wants it, and now he's using me to get to you. And you didn't think I deserved to know that before you let me?" Her voice cracked. "Before I let you in." "I was trying to protect you," Eli said. Mae stood. "No, you were trying to protect yourself from guilt, from the truth, from me." He looked like a man with nowhere left to run. "I didn't come back for silver," he said. I came back for you. And I stayed because I love you." Mae's breath caught, but her face hardened. "Then you should have started with that." She walked past him and left him standing there in the lantern light, alone again. But this time Eli didn't chase her, because the truth that he'd carried was finally out, and whether it saved them or ended them, that part wasn't his to decide anymore. The barn went up just after midnight. Mae was jolted awake by the smell of smoke and the sound of splintering wood. At first she thought it was a dream, but then came the screaming, not hers, the animals. She was out the door in seconds, barefoot and wild-eyed, her nightdress whipping around her legs. Flames poured from the roof of the barn, lighting the night like sunrise gone wrong. The horses kicked in their stalls. The mule wailed. The smoke curled thick and black into the sky. And through it all, Eli, he was already there, axe in hand, bashing open the gate with raw fury. Blood ran down his forearm, but he didn't stop. Not for the heat, not for the pain. Mae didn't think. She ran. Together they pulled the stall doors open one by one. The horses barreled past them in a blur of muscle and terror. Mae coughed so hard she saw stars dragging a foal out by the halter, flames licking up the walls behind her. Eli grabbed her just before the beam came down. They hit the ground hard. Her body landed on his, the breath knocked out of them both. For a heartbeat, the fire roared above them, everything else gone. Just smoke, heat, hands, and a kiss. It wasn't soft. It was war. His hands in her hair, hers gripping the back of his neck. Ash coated their skin. Smoke stung their eyes, but their mouths found each other like they'd been waiting all their lives. They kissed like they were trying to remember the shape of something they'd lost, and for a moment, they forgot the fire. They forgot the world. They just were. Then Eli pulled back, breath ragged. His voice broke between syllables. "I'm sorry, Mae. For all of it, for the lies, the silence, the things I never said." She touched his cheek. Dirt and blood and ash smeared across his jaw. "I don't need perfect, Eli," she said, "just real." Then she helped him to his feet, and they watched the barn collapse in on itself. The blaze swallowed it whole, but not them, not yet. By dawn, what was left of the barn was nothing but scorched timber and smoke curling low across the dirt. The foal lay beside its mother, safe. The mule wandered free, chewing a burnt patch of hay like it hadn't almost died. Mae stood with Eli at the edge of the wreckage. "I know who did this," he said, her jaw tensed. "Calder." He nodded. "I think it's time we stop waiting for him to strike." She looked at him, really looked. The man who'd hurt her, lied to her, saved her life. The man she couldn't let go of, even if she tried. Mae nodded once. "Then let's finish this." The fire smoldered for 2 days. Ash drifted across the ranch like snow, soft and choking. The barn was gone. So were the tools. Half the feed. But not Mae, not Eli, and not the truth. On the third morning, Eli stood beside Mae at the northern slope, the place his brother had marked on the old map. The earth there was hard, dry, cracked like old skin. Nothing had grown there in years. "This is where it starts," he said. Mae said nothing, just knelt with the shovel and began to dig. The sun climbed overhead as they worked, neither speaking. The soil gave way to rock, then stone to something else, something hollow. A thud, metal on wood. Eli dropped to his knees, heart thundering. Mae brushed away dirt with her hands until the shape took form. An old chest, iron-bound and buried deep. He pried it open slow. Inside, a leather-bound journal, 2 cloth-wrapped pouches heavy with ore, and at the bottom, a folded piece of paper, yellowed with time. Mae lifted it with care, fingers trembling. It was a deed, her husband's name on it, Daniel Callahan. Signed, witnessed, stamped with the seal of a notary from Brimstone Ridge, dated a week before he died. Eli's breath caught. "He knew," Mae whispered. "He knew what was under this land, and he wanted to protect it." Eli nodded, voice thick. "That's why they killed him." Mae clutched the paper to her chest like it might vanish. "They wanted to erase him, erase all of it." "And they almost did," Eli said. She looked up at him. "But they didn't. They buried the chest again, but not the truth." Mae took the journal, the deed, the ore. She stood taller now, not because of what she found, but because of what they hadn't taken, her name, her fight, her fire. Back at the house, Eli sat on the steps, watching the smoke rise where the barn once stood. Mae joined him, a mug of coffee in each hand. "You think this changes anything?" she asked. "Not the danger," he said. "But it changes what we're fighting for." She sipped her coffee. "Feels like we've been digging for more than silver." "We have," he said, eyes meeting hers. "We've been digging for who we really are." Mae gave a tired smile. "I liked who I was before you showed up." "No, you didn't," he said gently. "You just didn't know how much more there was of you." That silenced her, not because it hurt, but because it healed. The wind blew softer that night. The smoke drifted away. The stars came out over a sky that didn't seem quite so heavy. Eli stayed on the porch. Mae stood behind him. She didn't say it aloud, but for the first time in a long time, she believed they might survive this. The first shot came just after sundown. Mae heard it before she saw him. Calder standing at the edge of the corral, pistol still smoking, eyes lit with something colder than hate. "I figured I'd stop by before supper," he called out. "Hope I'm not interrupting." Eli stepped onto the porch, rifle already in hand. "Drop it, Calder. It ends here." Calder smiled, slow and cruel. "Oh, I agree, but I ain't the one who's going to bleed." Mae stepped between them, unarmed, unshaking. Her voice cut the air. "You want the land, you take it from me. Man to woman." Calder tilted his head. "I don't shoot women. You burned my barn. Accidents happen. You cut my cattle. They wandered. You killed my husband." That stopped him. His smile faltered for just a breath. Then it returned. "I didn't kill Daniel, but I watched it happen. Watched him beg for her." Mae blinked. "Her?" Calder's eyes shifted to Eli. You never told her, did you? Eli tensed. No, Calder sneered. You left that part buried like everything else. Mae turned to Eli, heart pounding. What's he talking about? Eli didn't answer. So Calder did. Daniel wasn't killed over land. He was killed over her. He pointed straight at Mae. She was the one thing that couldn't be bought. So they took her future, took her husband. Figured she'd fold, but she didn't. He stepped forward, boots crunching dry dirt. You're tougher than they thought. Now the buyers want me to finish the job. Eli raised his rifle. Calder didn't flinch. I ain't here for you, Mercer, he said. I'm here to end a deal gone cold. You come for her, Eli growled. You die on this land. For a moment it felt like time stopped. Then Calder moved, but so did Mae. The shot rang out, hers. The old revolver from Daniel's drawer kicked in her hand. Calder staggered back, hand to his thigh, blood soaking through his pants. She didn't shoot to kill. She shot to warn. He dropped his weapon. Eli moved fast, boot to his chest, rifle pressed to his forehead. But Mae stepped in again. No, she said. Mae. He's done. Let him crawl away. Let him remember the woman who took everything back. Eli looked at her, then lowered the barrel. Calder limped off into the dark. They stood in silence. Then Mae dropped the revolver and collapsed into Eli's arms. He held her like she might vanish. She looked up at him, voice raw. You were going to tell me, weren't you? He nodded. I was trying to figure out how to say it. You just did. The land was quiet again. No fire, no blood, just wind in the grass and the echo of choices made. And Mae, stronger now than ever, stood in the center of it all. Still standing, still hers. The sky broke open, pink and gold over the ridge. Mae sat on the porch, coffee in hand, boots unlaced, dress still dusty from the night before. Her arms ached, her heart more so, but she'd made it. The land was still hers, and she was still standing. Eli came out quietly, shoulders wrapped in a blanket, face drawn like he'd walked 10 miles in his sleep. Didn't think I'd see another morning here, he said. Mae didn't look at him. Didn't think I'd want you to, she replied. Silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Then she sighed. But I do. He sat beside her, not close, just enough to feel the warmth. I never wanted to lie to you, Mae, but you did. I thought keeping you safe meant keeping you blind. She turned to him. I don't need protection. I need truth. I need someone who sees me as and stays anyway. Eli's voice caught. I'm here. Are you? He met her eyes. Yes. And I ain't going nowhere unless you make me. She studied him, his hands scarred and cracked, his face lined with more years than he wore, his eyes still carrying ghosts. And for the first time she let herself believe maybe home wasn't just a place, maybe it was someone. You love me? She asked. He nodded, no hesitation. Yes. I'm not what most men want, he smiled. Most men are fools. She chuckled softly, and then, finally, she leaned in. The kiss wasn't wild like before. It was slow. Sure, like planting something and knowing it would grow. Later that day, they rebuilt what they could. The animals returned to their pens. The neighbors, who'd heard the gunfire but waited till morning as folks do, came to help. Boards went up, fences mended, smoke cleared. Mae stood tall, sleeves rolled, commanding like she was born to do it. And Eli? He worked with her. Not over her, not behind her, beside her. At sunset, they stood by Daniel's grave. Mae held the deed in one hand, the ore sample in the other. She laid both at the base of the cottonwood tree. Thank you, she whispered, for believing in me before I did. The wind stirred the branches above, like the land itself was exhaling. Back at the house, as the stars rose, Eli poured 2 drinks. To second chances, he said. Mae raised hers. To women who don't quit. They clinked glasses, and for the first time in a long time, she wasn't surviving, she was living. If this story gripped your heart like a branding iron in the dark, hit that like button and subscribe to Saddlehorn Stories for more grit, heartbreak, and redemption straight from the frontier. What would you have done in Mae's boots? Forgive Eli or send him packing for good? Let us know in the comments below.